Today we're gonna be talking about correlation. Now before I proceed further, I just want you to focus on one thing. On this playlist, if you see, there is one video which is about calculating the standard deviation in this playlist, and the other one, this is for standard deviation, and then the other one is about covariance. So I strongly recommend you, if you have not seen these two video, please first check this out and then you can check out the correlation video. That will help you understand the things very easily, because I have explained both of these two things with a deep context, right? So if you watch this will be very beneficial, otherwise still it's going to be fine. So you can continue with the video. Now in correlation, if you have already seen the covariance, then correlation is going to be very simple for you. This is nothing but it simply tells you the intensity or degree of relationship between two variables. You can either say relationship or the covariance. With covariance we find the relationship, right? So when you find correlation, this will tell you how strong that relationship is. So for example, in previous video we saw that we took two variables, GDP and Nifty, and we learned covariance and we calculated it, and the result which we got is simply tells us that these two variables has the positive relation. For now, let's say positive relation. So in short, we can say that covariance tells us two things, whether the relation is positive or negative. But now the point comes in how strong this positive and negative correlation is. What is the intensity or degree of this positive and negative correlation is? Positive or negative correlation, that rather we can say. So this is something which is addressed by correlation. So correlation will tell us two things. One is type of relationship, the other one is either strength, intensity or degree, whatever you want you can say, of particular relationship. So with covariance we found the relationship, and correlation tells you how strong is that. So if you have not seen covariance, if you don't know how to calculate covariance, still it's going, you don't need to find the covariance separately and correlation separately. If you learn how to find correlation, covariance will automatically be covered. Okay, so please continue with the video. Now we will see how many types of correlation are there. So these all are the correlation which are known, right? And out of this Pearson correlation is the most renowned one, right? And then Spearman correlation and so on. So we will start with Pearson correlation, which is also called the Pearson Correlation Coefficient. So if you look at the Wikipedia, this is the definition or explanation rather we can say about Pearson Correlation Coefficient. But the point which I want you to note is this is a measure of linear correlation between two sets of data. This is something which I will explain you in detail also. So for now what you can understand is it simply tells you how linear the two variables are related. Okay, the next point is it is the ratio between the covariance and it is the ratio between covariance of two variables and the product of their standard deviation. You see, I said that standard deviation and covariance is important to learn, right? So it is nothing but the ratio of these two things. The next point which should be noticed over here is the result of correlation always ranges between -1 and +1. Right? So in short, 3 points which we want to note over here, this and this. Let's see in detail. So it is a measure of linear correlation between two sets of data, a ratio between the covariance of two variables and the product of their standard deviation. Let's understand this. So this was the formula we used to calculate the covariance, and we've calculated it and we found the result this. So you see, this was the covariance. Now we take the covariance and then we take the standard deviation of first variable, which was GDP, then the standard deviation of second variable, which is Nifty, and then we multiply them together, and whatever we get over here we just divide this covariance with this product, and when you do this, the answer which you get range between -1 and +1. So this is the Pearson correlation coefficient. Okay, so Pearson correlation coefficient says that it's a measure of linear correlation, right? It's the ratio between covariance of two products and the product of their standard deviation, and it always ranges between -1 and +1. Hope this is clear. This is very simple and it's very important thing for data science or for any sort of prediction. Okay, now let's have a look or recap on this example which we covered in the previous video as well, right? So we had two variables, GDP and Nifty. So to find the covariance, what we did is we first took the mean of these two variables. Same thing we need to repeat for correlation as well. Okay, because you see, whatever we find the covariance, after that we can find the standard deviation and then we can find the correlation. Okay, so after getting the mean, what we do is we subtract this particular value from this and we get the difference. Same thing we need to do for this particular variable as well. Okay, so this is what we need to do. Here we got the difference of these two things. Now we need to multiply these two things, right? So next thing which says is multiply this difference together. So what we get is this. Now we gotta get the mean of this particular variable. You need to find the mean of this particular variable. So whatever mean you find, that's the covariance. Okay, now after getting the covariance, what we're gonna do is find a standard deviation of GDP and Nifty separately. So here we have the GDP variable and here we have the Nifty variable, right? So we need to find their standard deviation as well, which is this. Now once you are done with finding the standard deviation, what you're gonna do is you're gonna multiply these two things together. So when you do that, multiply these two standard deviation together, so this is what you get. Now once this is done, all that you need to do is use this and divide this. With this value you gotta divide this value, and when you do that, this is what you get, this coefficient correlation. So it's as simple as that. First you need to find the mean of both of these variables, then subtract each element of that given variable from the mean, then multiply the differences, okay, and then find the mean of this product, okay, and then find GDP of the two variables separately, then multiply this standard deviation, find the standard deviation of two variables, which is GDP and Nifty, and then divide the covariance with this product, and then you get the coefficient correlation. So here is the things again. If I have to repeat, covariance of GDP and Nifty you gotta find, then standard deviation of GDP and then standard deviation of Nifty, multiply this together and then use that product to divide this covariance. So this is the statistical formula if you are interested in learning. Here each of these elements are defined over here. This particular symbol which you see over here, this says E is expectation. Expectation is nothing but the mean of these two things, right? Whatever value is mentioned over here is the mean. So when you find the mean of this product, that becomes the covariance, and below is the product of a standard deviation. That's what your correlation is. Now I will take you to the Python and I will show you how you can calculate it using Python. Okay, so here we are in Python. To keep the video short, what I have done is there is the long way which I just explained, and that I have covered over here. What you can do is you can pause the video and you can understand this. To be on safer side, I will also upload this script on GitHub and I'll share the link. There is the shortest way to calculate correlation. How can you do that? First you gotta use the data frame name, and then you take the variable for which you want to calculate the correlation. Okay, so what is the variable that we want to use? The variables are GDP and then the Nifty. All right, let's try to print this. Okay, so here there is a short problem. I'll just fix this. So these are the two variables. Now you have to find the correlation. So all that you need to do is just put dot and say COR, hit tab. So this is the correct spelling. Okay, and now just do this. So this is taking some time and it will give you the result. oops, there seem to be, okay, it should be double R, not single R. Now you just hit enter. So if you see over here, this is exactly what the correlation we found in the explanation we just covered. Okay, so this is how we calculate the correlation. Now the other thing which I want to show you, there could be three possible correlation: perfect positive when you are getting 1, perfect negative when you are getting -1, and 0 means there is no correlation. So this is something which I have created a sample data over here, right? So you see this, not this exactly, this is still a dictionary, so I will show it to you over here. Just bear with me, I will just show it to you. Sample data. So this is the data set which we have created. Here you see the price, here demand, supply and profit. So please note, this has nothing to do with the real life example. This is completely fictitious thing, because in life you I most likely you are never going to get this kind of situation, right, in terms of numbers. So this is just for illustration purpose, this has nothing to do with the real life. Okay, so this is the data which we are done with preparing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the correlation on this particular data. Okay, so let's check that out. So if you see over here, okay, let me reduce the variables so that it will be clear to you. Okay, so what I am going to do is, here I will keep only two variables, which is price and then demand. You see this is the correlation which we got. Okay, now what we gonna do is, so if you see the correlation between price and demand is 1, and demand price, I mean of course price and demand, so it is always 1, right? So this is perfect positive correlation. If you want to represent it visually, that I will also show you, but before that let me show you the correlation with other variable as well, right? So for example, if I take this and put it over here, and here if I change it to supply, and then if you see this, so what you get is -1, means the correlation between price and supply is perfect negative. Okay, now let me show it to you visually. How can you visually represent this? Okay, so before we proceed, I just want you to take a note of all this library which I have imported over here, and you are also needed to do this. This is the visualization library. I will come back over here again, and what I'll do is I'll show it to you visually. How can you visually represent this? So SNS dot, all that you need to do is plot a scatter. Okay, data is your scatter plot, sorry, sample data, and then on the X variable I want to plot price, on Y variable I want to plot, let's say, demand. Okay, and now when you run this, so you see you get this kind of linear relationship, right? Similar thing I will do with supply, sorry, you see here you are getting perfect negative, and when you do it with profit, so you get this. So this is almost zero correlation, right? So there is no relation. Let me explain you these three graphs in detail to you. Okay, so here is the first one. So if you notice over here, this is the first unit of price and this is the first unit of demand. The moment it increases to 2, this point is over here, and if you see it meets over here, right? So price and the demand both are increasing in same direction and by same proportion, so which is giving you, this is giving you a perfect positive correlation. If you see over here, this is giving you a perfect positive correlation. So when the line is going upward, when x-axis is increasing and y-axis is also increasing, or x-axis is decreasing and y-axis is also decreasing, that's the perfect positive correlation. Now let's take another situation. If you see over here, the price is 1 and if you see the supply is 6. When price is least, the supply is highest. When price increases, right, supply is decreasing, if you see over here. So price increases to 2 and supply decreases to 5. I'm talking about this particular point. All right. So you see it has this diminishing relationship, right? The line is diminishing. So this is called perfect negative correlation. So its value will be -1 and its value will be +1. Okay, here the value will be for correlation +1 and here the -1. If you see over here, this is perfect. I mean, this is almost approximately zero correlation because you are not able to establish any relation. You see, neither this kind, neither this kind, neither of this kind you are able to establish any relation. So that's why it would be called that there is no correlation between both of these two variables, right? So though here it's somewhere the value is 0.3 or something like that, but it's almost zero. So you can see there is no correlation. As per Wikipedia, there are some diagrams. So again, this is for perfect negative correlation, -1, where you can see this is coming downward. This is this is showing you correlation between -1 to 0 and so on. You can just take a note of this. You can just pause the video and try to relate this thing. Other than this, you can see these videos also, right? So the value above over here, it's showing what sort of this is the correlation value. So if you see over here, it's 1 and the line is perfect upward. So this is perfect positive correlation. Here it is a little less. I mean, the correlation is weakening, right? So it's keeps on the correlation keeps on diminishing, right? And here you get the zero correlation. Again, it keeps on diminishing, and at the end you get negative correlation. Same happens with the subsequent diagrams. I strongly recommend you to pause the video and have a look on this. Okay. Now after this, I would also suggest you to go through this particular, visualization. This is heat map. This is a very perfect visualization to show the correlation. For this, what you need to do is first calculate the correlation. How can you calculate that correlation? I said, so first what you can do is we can just say correlation sample data. Here I have created one correlation variable, okay, and inside that what I am going to do is I'm going to say sample data dot cor. All right, and in that I have just stored it, and then after doing that I just create this particular sort of visualization. So here you can represent it, represent everything pretty well, right? So if you see over here, the correlation between demand and profit, right? This is something which is representing to the, sorry, please bear with me. This is something which is representing to that sort of correlation. So if you see demand and price over here, demand and price, it's the perfect positive correlation. Similarly, demand, so this demand and supply, you see perfect negative correlation. So on this one visualization you can see it's sort of these things, right? So this is it in the correlation, Pearson coefficient correlation as of now. Okay, I just hope that it was clear to you. Just in case if you have any doubt, put that into the comment section. I'll definitely try to solve that. Until then, happy learning. Wish you all the best.